All right, welcome back to Robots Attack.
Ba-dum-bum-bum.
We are talking E3. We are now talking Bethesda. They're a
Oh
pretty big name,
yeah.
I think, in the game
Yep.
industry. I think people seem to like their games, at least a couple in
They've
particular.
yeah. They've made a small footnote in the game industry, I think.
Yeah. So
Most people
yeah,
have heard of them.
Bethesda they did something a little different this year with their press show.
Yeah,
Special
and
attraction.
Yeah.
it it made me honestly jealous that I wasn't there to encounter it. And I wish they would have had more cameras on the actual press event, just so we could see it. But maybe that would make everybody so jealous that it was a
Yeah.
bad idea. Maybe this was the best call. But yeah, they had an entire Bethesda land type of like trying to make sort of a Disneyland type of theme park out of their entire press junket, and it sounded awesome because each game that they were trying to talk about would have its own unique food and drink to accompany it. I forget which game it was, but one of them literally had like Pabst Blue Ribbon in uh, paper bags as its like signature drink. I thought that was kind of a genius play. Um, and everything that I've heard from people that were actually there made it sound like that was the biggest party in all of E3. So it sounds
Mm.
like it was definitely a good call as far as getting
Yeah.
people invested in it from the press side. That said, I don't know if they necessarily even needed it because they have a fairly good stable of video games that people are pretty excited about just in general. Um,
Well, they're
Any that stood it.
well even their the actual conference itself was different. It was like pretty much just a video almost. Like they had their
Mm,
Yeah.
like they had a marketing guy come out and kind of talk a little bit of stuff, but then they just rolled the video and it was like there was no Todd Howard, there was no it was different than last year. I mean, I imagine
yeah,
because they didn't have one of their signature big games announced, so um
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Teasing that out was probably a priority, and they did a really good job on that video, bringing that Bethesda Land feel into it also, with kind of
Yeah.
poppy little graphics and so on. It was still fairly unique, even if you weren't there.
yeah.
Yeah, the jump between the games that they were showcasing. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So, what were some standouts to you guys?
Well, for me, uh, Bethesda's big showcase of the Evil Within 2, we had almost a 3-minute trailer of Evil Within 2, and it had a
Yeah.
cover of Duran Duran's Ordinary World, which was an interesting choice for Evil Within. That was a long. That was definitely a long video, but I absolutely appreciated everything that was in there. The game looks absolutely creepy. They've still retained everything that made the first one what I thought a great uh, survival horror game.
Hmm.
I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but there was this Shinji Mikami is great at creating horror and atmosphere. He's the creator of the Resident Evil series, and
Hmm.
my God, this game to me feels more like Silent Hill than it does Resident Evil. It's probably like the
Okay.
closest we're gonna get to a new Silent Hill at this point. But there,
Yeah.
in one part of the trailer, there was this creepy character. It was like 4 legs, and it was crawling up the wall, and it kind of sat in the corner, and it brought its head down, and its head was basically like a 1940s flash camera. Um, it was just strange. Like that was its face was a camera. Like he's just amazing at creating these weird characters, like the keeper from the first one, with
Mm.
with the the safe on his head,
But yeah.
and that big like mallet-like club, and then Laura with the four-legged like spider lady that would come up through like blood, dead bodies, and everything. I mean, yeah, this definitely, if you're any sort of a survival horror fan, this should appeal to you absolutely. Um, and then they also, it wasn't actually at the event itself, but it is a continuation of Evil Within. On top of that, like almost 3 minute reveal trailer that they had of gameplay, they also added an extended story trailer, which was almost 2 minutes long. So they have a lot going for them for this game. It comes out, interestingly enough, on October 13th, Friday
Right.
the 13th.
Perfect.
So it makes
Well played.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
Great job there. I see what you did there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just interesting that they went ahead and did a story reveal as well. So they've had these like almost 5 minutes trailer combined of just sort of a little bit of gameplay, sort of what the creatures are going to look like, and then of course the story on top of that. So I'll get into the story in a little bit, but I'll see what you guys think of the reveal trailer, or if you guys have anything to say before I jump into what the story had to offer, since
Well,
I did play this game.
did for the first one, what would you say was some of the kind of major criticisms about it? Like it seemed like it was in kind of the camp of like people loved it or like did not care for it whatsoever. Like it was, I don't want to say like polarizing, but it didn't
Right.
seem like there were a lot of like, yeah, it was fine. It was more like, oh yeah, this was fantastic, or oh, this is garbage. Like,
Yeah.
um,
It,
So
it didn't
polarizing.
have that. It didn't
Yeah.
have that Resident Evil 7 feel, where it was. Yeah. Um, Based on what I could understand, because I actually really enjoyed it for the most part. There was maybe a few things. So I guess from my perspective, I think what the issue was the story was a little bit confusing for some people. Because you're in the STEM creation tool. It's basically, if you don't know what the STEM is, it's by the Mobius company, which is almost like a pseudo umbrella corporation, except it's not pharmaceuticals. It's technology and everything. So the STEM machine is capable of uniting minds into one, with one influencing mind at its center. So I think because they jump in and use the STEM machine, it kind of like gives off this weird portrayal of the story where like you don't know exactly what's real and what's not a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
it kind of makes it hard to follow at times when it's telling that story. Because there's a lot of like, oh, was he hallucinating, or is that just, that a figment of my imagination, or is that real? What's going on? So I think a lot of it had to do with the story in general. It was a little bit hard. It hard to follow. It definitely wasn't like an A+ effort as far as story goes, but they nailed out the atmosphere and the survival horror and having limited weapons and all that. I think another issue too was its difficulty, believe it or not. It was a tough game. This is
Yeah.
a game that my first ever stream on Twitch was this game, and it's interesting because it tells you at the end how many times you die. So I mean that probably already should tell you that you're gonna die quite a bit, and it lets you know at the end how many times you died. So I think it's difficulty too. There was a lot of like instant kills, like one hit and you're dead, whether it be traps, which were all over the place, or just these monsters that literally could kill you in one hit. So I think a lot of that had to do with just the instant kills and just the overall difficulty. So I think between difficulty and the story, I think that's what made it, polarizing, was that it was a great survival horror game and it had the mechanics down and it had the atmosphere and the characters were cool, but the story and I think the difficulty is kind of what, I wouldn't say it convoluted it, but it just made it just
It
kind
was a
of
deal
like,
breaker for a lot of people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you
So
think
that's my
with
take on it.
do you think this one is gonna address any of that? From what I mean, obviously it's kind of hard to tell with just what they've shown,
Right.
but
Hmm.
Um, I think I would like to think they're gonna touch up a lot more on the story. When they did that story reveal, it did seem a little bit more interesting. We kind of know some of the characters now, like Julie Kidman, who was Sebastian's right hand man or woman in this case, and that she kind of backstabbed him. I guess we're doing some spoilers. In the first one, she kind of backstabbed him, and it turned out she was working for Mobius all along. So she's back in the game. Sebastian's back in it, and there was a time in the first one where they mentioned that his daughter Lily was dead, Sebastian's daughter, and sure enough, in this reveal, it shows that that wasn't the case at all. That was Mobius leading Sebastian to think that no, no, she's dead, she's gone, whatever. And in fact, Mobius is the one that actually has her in their possession right now. So now he has to go back into the STEM machine and try and save her. And he's going to have to go through all these outrageous horrors and new creations that Mobius and STEM have built up since then. So that's kind of the premise of this story for the second one.
Okay.
So already I think it seems more interesting because we're aware of some of the characters now. We sort of know the motive now, whereas in the first one it wasn't really that clear to me. So there is a true motive in this one. So I feel that they will their story this time around. Difficulty, I'm not sure. They may keep the difficulty there. We haven't really seen anything to say otherwise as far as like, true gameplay and traps and all that, but I would like to think they're probably still going to keep the difficulty there, so it'll be interesting to see as this is actually due out in like 4 months. So yeah, it's not far. It's not far.
I look forward to watching you stream it because the first one was fun. Oh.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to mention other than impressions from other people, and it does sound like the biggest complaint from kind of YouTube personalities that I've come across is just how difficult it was, and it made a lot of people feel like they had completely missed some sort of element in order to move forward at multiple stages, and and kind of what killed it for a lot of people. But that seems like something that can easily be fixed and tweaked in a future incarnation. So it seems like they shouldn't have a problem making that a little bit better. Me personally, all of the art direction stuff on it looks amazing. I really looking forward to it aesthetically, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the difficulty was implemented the way it was is because it's again Shinji Mikami and he's like the godfather of survival horror.
Right.
And I think that with the expectations of what he did with Resident Evil, that people that were going to be invested into this new game were probably already survival horror veterans. They kind of knew what to expect. They know how to manage their health. They know how to manage their weapons, their ammo, and all that. So I think that thought process was there for when the game was made. So a lot of like the hardcore people, like I would consider myself that as far as that genre goes, they were faced with a challenge. I think it was overly difficult, but obviously for like a casual person who's, they like horror, they like this, but they were in for a hell of a challenge.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what happened with that. One thing I'm interested into seeing is throughout the game they had this like upgrade system where you would go back to like this save hub, and it was like this hotel kind of thing, and you would go in there and you would sit on like this chair, and you would spend your ooze. It was like a slime, and that you would collect brain gel. I think it was actually called a brain gel throughout your playthroughs, and you would collect it, and then this contraption would be like attached to your head and body and everything, and you would spend this brain gel, and you would get like upgrades. Like individually, all your weapons would have like accuracy, and it would have weapon capacity and faster speeds, and there'd be attachments, and there'd be more health and better defense and all that stuff. So it kind of added that cool like kind of RPG element to it, and I'm interested to see like if they continue going forward with that in the next one, because it is kind of 3 years after the events of the first one, and has the STEM machine upgraded any since then, and so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of cover that. But I really hope that comes back, because I thought that was an interesting take. You don't know really what you want to upgrade, because you don't know what your next like battle's gonna be. Like, do I do a shotgun? Do I do a sniper rifle? Like, which one should I have? So it was kind of cool in that regard. So I hope it makes a comeback.
Yeah,
Whoa.
it seems like they're off to a good start on it.
Yeah.
Speaking of comebacks and grandfathers and killing things, did any of you people play Quake back in the day?
I did, yes.
Do you have
All
any
of
thoughts
them.
on Quake champions or?
Oh, geez. I the last time I played a Quake was Quake 3 Arena on the PC, and that had to have been, oh, geez, probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So the Quake series isn't overly fresh in my mind, and even with Quake 3 Arena, it wasn't really single player based. It was mostly just multiplayer. Like, the story mode was like not there at all. So I don't have like I don't have much to say really about Quake. I mean, it looks cool. I'm glad it's coming back, but I mean, I think maybe that era of first-person shooters have already kind of passed it by. At least that's my take on it. I'm not really sure. I would give it a shot, but
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the interesting part to me about it is that since it was one of the founding fathers of kind of the esports community and was really powerful for a long time as far as that goes, to have it kind of stray out of the spotlight for a long time and have them try and resurrect it, I can only imagine how difficult that would be, since it seems like it naturally died in the first place. And they're going all in on it. They have massive pots that they're putting together for their own tournaments. Like, they're not trying to convince third parties to do any of this stuff. They're really throwing the money at this. So if it'll be really educational to see if companies can do that 100% on their own, or if it needs that spark of a community rising around it. Like, I think a lot of people were caught off guard by Overwatch ending up being as big of an esports thing as it became, because initially it wasn't really built as an esports type of game. It's just the passion was there. So they were more than happy to fuel people's passion and add a competitive mode of their own and build that up. But that had that spark of it being just a natural thing. So that's the most interesting part to me about it coming back, is having a company actively trying to resurrect it.
Yeah, it's definitely it'll be interesting to see for sure because I was there, like I rode out Quake 3 until it died. Like I was there for years playing it as well as mods like Urban Terror. They
Yeah.
were I rid it out until it was completely dead. So I do have a special place. It has a special place in my heart. Quake does, and I hope it does well. I really do. But I still kind of feel like it's kind of it died for a reason, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it'll be able to pick up steam and get back to once where it was.
Pick up steam.
You caught that.
Right. So should we jump to the big news that really got everybody unhinged on this conference? Or is there something else that we want to go with first?
Nah, I think we could.
No, I think, yeah. Can roll with
Okay, well, Wolfenstein 2. I'll just say it. There it is, Wolfenstein 2. Obviously, it's a continuation of the last storyline. People absolutely loved the first game, and I think were pleasantly caught off guard by how well it was put together. Me personally, I don't have a lot of experience with it, but how do you feel about being able to continue with that storyline, Joe?
Yeah, I'm excited. That game, yeah, that was a total surprise. I mean, I think it's been said to death. Like the beginning portion of the game is probably the worst of the New Order, but like once you get into the meat of it, like after everything goes down, it's like I never would have thought Wolfenstein would have had like a pretty solid like story and like interesting characters and actually use like sex in a positive light. Like yeah, I think it surprised a lot of people. And this like oh yeah, and like having, I mean, I guess it's a tiny spoiler, but I never would have thought like having Jimi Hendrix in the game would be like a possibility, but then it was really cool how they used them, and it was really neat how they gave you like this choice that kind of altered the characters you interacted with and everything. And so I'll be kind of curious to see how they handle that with this next one. Like if they're gonna go like they're gonna pick one as the canon choice or something. But yeah, I'm like I'm looking forward to punching and killing Nazis in America.
Sounds like a fun time. Yeah, the thing that caught my attention on it probably more than anything was having the little promo videos where everybody couldn't tell what the heck it was trying to sell for a little while, and then it became abundantly clear by the end of the first video, with Lassie being remade as a giant mechanical dog.
Yeah.
It's apparently German.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit of genius right there, and really well executed. A lot of fun, and the actual clips of the game looked really impressive. And still, I mean, the first one, everything that I saw with it was artistically really solid, and they're definitely taking that a step forward on this game. It all looks really nice. I am really looking forward to having that, playing through the scene where you're assaulting some sort of helicarrier. It looks like it looks crazy and amazing, and the little post scene to their teaser was kind of neat too, and I'm interested to see how they incorporate it, if it'll be a bigger thing or not, is hallucinations. Because if you have a little cartoon like Gecko or whatever that was with you
Yeah.
over the course of the game, I'm
Oh man.
completely in. That would be completely my jam. I'd love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just glad they're going for the tone they're going for. Like it's just it's like wacky, bizarre, like ultra violent, like just I'm glad that they weren't like,
Yeah.
oh no, you can't do that. Like you need to, I'm glad they are embracing it and giving it like its own style, so it's not just like they already have Doom, they already have, you know, it's just it's nice that maybe it's not your thing, but I'm glad that they are able to to do it and it exists out there.
Yeah. Like I was personally a gigantic fan of the original game. I was right there downloading the shareware version and fighting Nazis in semi 3D environments
Yeah.
from the get-go, and I was more than happy to buy an actual physical copy of Spear of Destiny when it came out. I think it may have been one of my first actual physical video game purchases where I put my own money on the line, and I was happy to do that, and I was paid back very well. Um, the it is neat seeing them carry on the feel. To me, they perfectly execute the feel of Spear of Destiny in that they only had so much to work with in the graphics department back then, but they had a real good combination of it being visceral and wacky in that one also, and being genuinely unnerving at different parts.
Yeah.
It seems like they've carried that over into these games really well, with the icing on the cake being it being absolutely beautiful in its horrendous nature. So yeah,
Yeah,
I need to go back and put the time in on the the previous game so that I can be up to date on it. I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, I think they put it on sale quite a bit for pretty cheap. So
Yeah. That
it's
is
worth.
on, yeah, quite a bit.
And that, yeah, both that and Evil Within 2 are coming out in October, so October will be a big month for
Yeah.
Bethesda.
Yeah, that it will
Well,
be.
I may be wrong, but I think that was one of their selling points in general, was they were trying to say that anything that they're talking about is coming in out not just within the year, but before the end of the year. So
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
impressive for a company to be able to do, and I I definitely enjoy that line of reasoning a little bit more than teasing stuff from who knows how far down the line.
yeah,
Yep. That's for sure. I think we can all agree that it looks pretty awesome, and we're probably all gonna check it out.
Yeah,
I think so.
at
So-
minimum, watch people
Yeah.
stream it. At minimum,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I think that'll wrap us up for Bethesda, and then we will move on to the next one.